The knife was already at her throat when Nina realized she'd walked into the wrong room. Lee Ho stood in the shadows, dripping wet from the shower, ink-black tattoos writhing across his chest, and murder in his eyes. She had exactly 5 seconds to convince Seoul's most dangerous man that she deserved to live. This woman just stumbled into the private domain of a Korean crime lord who'd sworn off all women after tragedy destroyed him 12 years ago, and she was about to become the one thing that could break him or save him. If you want a story that will grip you from start to finish, subscribe to Afro-Korean World right now and smash that notification bell. What happens next will leave you breathless. Nina Kim clutched the mop handle so tight her knuckles turned white. The Imperial Palace Hotel's basement hallway stretched before her like a prison corridor, dim and endless. Her reflection in the polished floor looked like a ghost, thin and fatting. 3 months. That's how long she'd been in Seoul. 3 months since she'd fled Chicago with nothing but a suitcase and shame. 3 months of sleeping in a hostel that smelled like mildew and broken dreams. 3 months of scrubbing toilets and pretending she didn't understand Korean when guests complained about her. Her phone buzzed. Another message from her mother. "Your sister's wedding is in 2 weeks. Will you be there?" Nina deleted it without responding. She couldn't go back. Not after what she'd done. Not after she'd destroyed her family's trust in one stupid, reckless moment. Her supervisor's voice crackled through her earpiece. "Kim, presidential suite, 18th floor, VIP checkout. I need it spotless in 30 minutes. Nina's stomach dropped. The 18th floor. That was the floor they whispered about in the break room. The floor where Seoul's elite stayed when they wanted privacy. The floor where questions weren't asked and eyes were kept down. "Yes, ma'am," Nina said. She pushed her cart toward the service elevator, every muscle in her body screaming exhaustion. She hadn't slept properly in weeks. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw her ex-fiancé's face. The betrayal, the lies, the moment she'd walked in on him with her best friend. The elevator doors opened on the 18th floor, and the world changed. Marble floors stretched in every direction, gleaming under crystal chandeliers. The air smelled like money, leather, and expensive cologne and something else. Something dangerous. Nina checked her assignment sheet. Suite 1805. She found the room at the end of the hallway. The door was slightly ajar, a sliver of darkness visible through the crack. Strange. VIP guests usually locked their doors. Nina knocked. "Housekeeping." Silence. She knocked again, louder this time. "Housekeeping, I'm here to clean the suite." Nothing. Nina hesitated. Her supervisor had been clear. 30 minutes. Spotless. No excuses. She couldn't afford another mistake. Couldn't afford to lose this job. It was the only thing keeping her off the streets. She pushed the door open. The suite was massive. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Seoul's skyline, the city lights twinkling like scattered diamonds. A leather sofa sat in the center of the room, untouched. The bed was made pristine. But something was wrong. The bathroom door was open. Steam poured out in thick clouds, filling the suite with heat and the scent of sandalwood. Water was running. Someone was here. Nina's heart started to pound. She should leave. She should back out of this room right now and tell her supervisor there'd been a mistake. But before she could move, a shadow emerged from the steam. Lee Ho stepped into the light, and Nina's breath stopped. He was shirtless, water dripping down his neck and chest. Tattoos covered his torso, intricate black designs that looked like they'd been carved by a master. A dragon coiled around his ribs. Korean characters wrapped around his shoulders. Scars crisscrossed his abdomen, old wounds that told stories of violence. His face was sharp, brutal, beautiful. Dark eyes that could cut through steel. A jaw that looked like it had never known softness. Wet hair pushed back from his forehead. He looked at Nina, and the temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. "Who are you?" His voice was quiet, controlled, deadly. Nina's throat went dry. "I'm housekeeping. I'm so sorry, sir. The door was open. I thought the room was empty." He didn't move, didn't blink, just stared at her with those black eyes like he was deciding how much effort it would take to kill her. "The door was locked," he said. "It was open," Nina insisted. Her voice came out smaller than she intended. "I knocked. No one answered." Lee Ho's jaw tightened. He crossed the room in 3 strides, grabbed his phone from the nightstand, and made a call. He spoke in rapid Korean, his tone sharp and commanding. Nina understood enough to know he was angry, very angry. When he hung up, he turned back to her. "Someone tampered with my door. Someone wanted you to walk in here." Nina's blood went cold. "What? Why would anyone?" "To test me," he said, "to see if I've gone soft." He moved closer, and Nina instinctively stepped back. Her spine hit the wall. Trapped. Lee Ho stopped a foot away from her, close enough that she could see the tension in his jaw, close enough that she could smell him, soap and something darker, something that made her pulse race. "Do you know who I am?" he asked. Nina shook her head. "Good, keep it that way." He stepped back, and Nina could breathe again. "Leave," he said. "Forget this room, forget you saw me." Nina nodded quickly. She turned toward her cart, but her hands were shaking so badly she couldn't grip the handle. Her vision blurred. The room tilted. She hadn't eaten since yesterday morning. Her body was running on empty, and the adrenaline crash was hitting her all at once. She stumbled, her knees buckled. Lee Ho caught her before she hit the ground. His arm wrapped around her waist, solid and strong. He held her against his chest, and Nina could feel his heartbeat, steady and controlled even as hers raced out of control. "When did you last eat?" His voice was different now, quieter, almost gentle. "Yesterday," Nina whispered. Lee Ho's grip tightened. Then he lifted her effortlessly and carried her to the sofa. He set her down carefully, like she was something fragile. "Stay here." He disappeared into the suite's kitchen. Nina heard cabinet doors opening, the clink of dishes. A few minutes later, he returned with a tray. Rice, grilled fish, kimchi, soup, a full meal. He set it on the coffee table in front of her. "Eat." "I can't." "Eat." It wasn't a request. Nina's pride wanted to refuse, but her body was screaming. Her hands were shaking. Her sister's face flashed in her mind. If she collapsed, if she ended up in the hospital, she'd lose this job. She'd lose everything. So she ate. She ate quickly, desperately, not looking at him. The food was good, better than anything she'd had in months. She finished the rice, the fish, drained the soup. When she finally stopped, the tray was empty. Lee Ho was watching her, not with judgment, not with pity, with something else, something that made her chest tighten. "Thank you," Nina said quietly. He didn't respond. She stood on shaky legs and moved toward her cart. This time, she made it. She gripped the handle and pushed toward the door. "What's your name?" His voice stopped her. Nina turned. Nina Kim." He nodded once. "Go, don't come back to this floor." Nina left. The door closed behind her, and she stood in the hallway for a long moment, her heart still pounding, her mind racing. She didn't know who Lee Ho was, but she knew one thing with absolute certainty. She had just met the most dangerous man in Seoul, and he had shown her mercy. Nina is out here fighting to survive in a foreign city, starving herself, barely holding on. If you believe hardworking people deserve compassion, that struggle doesn't define worth, then subscribe to Afro-Korean World right now. Only heartless people scroll past without subscribing. Comment what time you're watching and tell me, should Nina trust Lee Ho or run as far as she can? Because what happens next will shatter everything. The next morning, Nina's supervisor cornered her in the break room. "Kim, you're being reassigned." Nina's stomach sank. "Where?" 18th floor, suites 1801 through 1810, permanent assignment. Nina's hands went cold. "Mrs. Choi, please. I can work any other floor, just not." This came from management. Mrs. Choi's expression was hard. "High priority guest requested you specifically. You refuse this assignment, you're fired. Understand." Nina's throat tightened. She thought about her hostel rent due in 3 days, the money she was saving to fix her visa status, the shame of calling her family and admitting she'd failed. "Yes, ma'am." "Good. Report to 18 in 15 minutes. Nina grabbed her cart and headed for the service elevator. Her mind was racing. Lee Ho had requested her. Why? He'd told her never to come back. The elevator doors opened on the 18th floor, and Nina immediately knew something was wrong. Shouting echoed down the hallway. Angry Korean voices, fast and furious. Then a crash, glass shattering. A gunshot that made Nina's blood freeze. She should run. She should get back in the elevator and disappear. But before she could move, Lee Ho appeared at the end of the hallway. He was running, gun in hand, shirt unbuttoned, blood on his knuckles. Behind him, 3 men in black suits were closing in fast. Lee Ho saw Nina. His eyes widened. Move. Nina couldn't move. Terror had locked her muscles. Lee Ho crossed the distance in seconds. He grabbed her arm and yanked her behind a marble pillar just as bullets tore through the air where she'd been standing. The world exploded. Gunfire, shouting, the sharp smell of gunpowder. Nina's ears were ringing. Lee Ho's body was pressed against hers, shielding her, his chest flush against her back. She could feel every hard line of muscle, the heat radiating from his skin, the controlled violence coiled in his frame. "Don't move," he said against her ear. "Don't make a sound." Nina couldn't have moved if she wanted to. She was frozen, caught between terror and something else. Something that made her hyper-aware of every point where his body touched hers. More gunfire, more shouting, then footsteps retreating, growing distant. Silence. Lee Ho didn't let her go. For several heartbeats, neither of them moved. Nina could feel his heart pounding against her spine, fast and fierce. Then slowly, carefully, he stepped back. Nina turned to face him. Her legs were shaking, her hands were trembling. What the hell was that? Lee Ho's jaw was tight. Business. That was not business. That was... They saw you. His voice cut through her panic like ice. Those men, they saw your face. Nina's stomach dropped. So now you're a target. Lee Ho holstered his gun and grabbed his phone. He made a call, speaking rapid Korean. When he hung up, he looked at Nina with an expression that made her chest tighten. You can't go back to your normal life. Excuse me. You're staying here, 18th floor. You don't leave without my knowledge. Nina's anger flared hot and desperate. You can't do that. I have a life. I have. You have nothing that matters more than staying alive. His voice was harsh. Those men will use you to get to me. They will take you. They will hurt you. And they won't care that you're innocent. I didn't ask for this. I know. Something in his expression shifted, almost like regret. But you're in it now. Nina wanted to scream, wanted to fight, but the look in his eyes stopped her. It wasn't just control. It was fear. Real, raw fear. Why do you care? She demanded. You don't even know me. Lee Ho was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, I won't let another woman die because of me. The words hung heavy in the air between them. Another woman. Nina's breath caught. What happened? Lee Ho's jaw clenched. He turned away. It doesn't matter. It does, if you're using it as an excuse to control my life. He spun back to face her, and the intensity in his eyes made her step back. 12 years ago, the woman I loved died in a hotel hallway. She died because I trusted the wrong person. She died because I let her get close. She died in my arms and I couldn't save her. Nina's anger dissolved. She could see it now, the weight he carried. The guilt that had been crushing him for over a decade. I'm sorry, she whispered. I don't want your pity. Lee Ho's voice was hard again. I want you alive, that's all. He pulled out his phone again and made another call. When he finished, he looked at Nina. Your hostel rent is paid. Your visa is being handled. You'll stay in Suite 1803. You'll work, but only on this floor where I can protect you. Nina's throat tightened. I can't accept this. You don't have a choice. Everyone has a choice. Lee Ho stepped closer, close enough that she could see the faint scar above his eyebrow, close enough that she could see the exhaustion in his eyes. Not this time, he said quietly. Not when your life is on the line. Nina wanted to argue, but she was tired, so tired. And for the first time since she'd fled Chicago, someone was offering her safety. Even if that safety came from Seoul's most dangerous man. Lee Ho just turned Nina's entire world upside down in less than 24 hours. If you're against people who prey on the innocent to settle their own wars, subscribe to Afro-Korean World and hit that like button. Comment, Nina deserves protection. If you believe no one should become collateral damage in someone else's fight. The suite Lee Ho gave Nina was more luxurious than anywhere she'd ever lived. King-sized bed, marble bathroom, a view of Seoul that made her heart ache. But luxury couldn't erase fear. That night, Nina couldn't sleep. Every sound made her jump. Every shadow looked like a threat. She kept seeing those men in the hallway, kept hearing the gunshots, kept feeling Lee Ho's body pressed against hers, shielding her. Around 2 a.m., she gave up on sleep and wandered to the window. Seoul glittered below, millions of lives going on without knowing what happened in the shadows. A knock on her door made her jump. Nina's heart raced. She approached the door slowly. "Who is it?" "It's me." "Lee Ho." Nina opened the door. He stood in the hallway, dressed in black, expression unreadable. "Can't sleep?" he asked. Nina shook her head. Lee Ho studied her for a moment. Then he said, "Come with me." He led her to his suite. It was larger than hers, darker. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city. The furniture was minimal, functional. This wasn't a room someone lived in. This was a room someone survived in. Lee Ho poured 2 glasses of whiskey and handed her one. Nina took it but didn't drink. "You're afraid," he said. It wasn't a question. "Wouldn't you be?" "I've been afraid for 12 years. He took a sip of whiskey. "It doesn't get easier, you just get better at hiding it." Nina looked at him, really looked at him, past the tattoos and the scars and the cold exterior. She saw someone who was as broken as she was. "What was her name?" Nina asked softly. "The woman you lost." Lee Ho's jaw tightened. For a moment she thought he wouldn't answer. Then quietly, "Yuna." "Tell me about her." He was silent for so long Nina thought he'd refuse. Then he started talking. She was a violinist, brilliant. She could make a room full of criminals cry with her music. A ghost of a smile crossed his face. "She saw something in me no one else did, something worth saving." "What happened?" "My second-in-command betrayed me, sold me out to a rival organization. They ambushed us in a hotel. I was in the next room when I heard her scream." His voice cracked. "By the time I got to her, she was already dying. She died in my arms, and the man who betrayed me walked away." "Did you?" "I killed him 3 days later." Lee Ho's eyes were empty, but it didn't bring her back. Nothing did. Nina's chest tightened. She understood that kind of grief, that kind of guilt. "I destroyed my family's trust," she said quietly. "My ex-fiancé cheated on me with my best friend. I found out 2 weeks before our wedding. I was so angry, so hurt, I told everyone. Publicly. Humiliated both families. My parents haven't spoken to me since." Lee Ho looked at her. "You did nothing wrong." "I handled it wrong. I let my pain hurt everyone around me." Nina's voice shook. "So I ran, came here, thought I could start over. But you can't outrun guilt." "No," Lee Ho said. "You can't." They stood in silence, 2 broken people who understood each other in ways no one else could. Then Lee Ho did something Nina didn't expect. He reached out and gently touched her face. His fingers brushed her cheek, warm and careful and shaking slightly. It was the first time he'd touched a woman in 12 years. Nina's breath caught. She should pull away, should maintain distance, but she didn't. Lee Ho's thumb traced her jawline. "I won't let anyone hurt you," he said. His voice was raw, vulnerable. "I can't lose someone again." Nina's hand came up, covering his. "You barely know me." "I know enough." The air between them crackled with something dangerous, something neither of them could control. Lee Ho pulled his hand back abruptly. "You should go, get some sleep." Nina nodded, but as she walked toward the door she paused. "Lee Ho." "Yes." "Thank you for protecting me." He didn't respond, but something in his eyes shifted, softened, just for a moment. Nina left, her heart pounding, her mind racing. She had just seen the man behind the monster, and it terrified her how much she wanted to see more. Those men didn't see Nina as a person. They saw her as leverage, a weakness to exploit. If you're against cowards who target the innocent, subscribe to Afro-Korean World and hit that like button. Comment, "Nina is not a pawn," if you believe no one should be used in someone else's war. Over the next week, everything changed. Lee Ho trained Nina. Taught her how to defend herself, how to spot danger, how to survive in his world. He was demanding but never cruel, patient but never soft. He pushed her until she could barely stand, then caught her when she fell. And somewhere between the lessons, something grew between them. Nina learned that Lee Ho liked his coffee black, no sugar, that he read philosophy books in the early morning, that he had nightmares that made him wake up shouting Yuna's name. Lee Ho learned that Nina sang when she cleaned, that she was terrified of thunderstorms, that she cried in the shower where no one could hear her. They didn't talk about what was happening, didn't name it, but they both felt it. The shift. The pull. The undeniable connection that was breaking down every wall they'd built. One night, Nina found Lee Ho standing at his window, staring out at the city. His shoulders were tense, his hands were clenched. "What's wrong?" she asked. "Word is spreading," he said. "My enemies know you're here. They know I'm protecting you. They think it makes me weak." "Does it?" Lee Ho turned to face her. "Yes." The honesty in his voice cut through her. "Then, why are you doing this?" "Because for 12 years, I've been dead inside." His eyes locked on hers. "And then you walked through my door, and for the first time since Yuna died, I felt something." Nina's breath stopped. "Lee Ho." "I don't know what this is," he said. "I don't know if it's real or if I'm just desperate to feel something again, but I know one thing." He stepped closer. "I will burn this entire city down before I let anyone take you from me." Nina should be scared, should run, but instead she closed the distance between them. "Then don't push me away," she whispered. Lee Ho's jaw clenched. "You don't understand what you're asking." "I understand perfectly. If you stay close to me, you'll be a target for the rest of your life." "I'm already a target." "Nina." "I'm not Yuna," she said firmly. "What happened to her wasn't your fault, and I'm not asking you to save me. I'm asking you to let me stand beside you." Lee Ho looked at her like she was the most precious and dangerous thing he'd ever seen. Then slowly, carefully, he reached out and cupped her face in both hands. "You're going to destroy me," he said. "Maybe," Nina whispered, "or maybe we'll save each other." Lee Ho's thumb brushed her bottom lip. The touch sent electricity through her entire body. His eyes dropped to her mouth, and Nina knew what was about to happen. He was going to kiss her, and she was going to let him. Lee Ho's enemies think love is weakness. They think caring makes you vulnerable. If you believe love takes more strength than hate. Subscribe to Afro-Korean World and hit that like button. Comment, "Love is strength," if you believe protecting someone is the bravest thing you can do. Because this story just reached the point of no return, and what happens next will change everything. Lee Ho kissed Nina like she was oxygen, and he'd been drowning for 12 years. His hands tangled in her hair, her arms wrapped around his neck. It was desperate and fierce and achingly tender all at once. When they finally broke apart, both of them were breathing hard. "I haven't done this in so long," Lee Ho said against her forehead. "I know. I don't know how to do this without losing myself." Nina pulled back enough to look him in the eyes. "Then, we'll figure it out together." Lee Ho's expression cracked. Vulnerability flooded through. "I'm terrified of losing you." "I'm terrified too," Nina admitted. "But I'm more terrified of walking away and spending the rest of my life wondering what we could have been." Lee Ho pulled her close again, holding her like she might disappear. And for the first time in 12 years, he didn't feel alone. But their peace didn't last. 3 days later, Nina was in the hallway when she heard shouting. Lee Ho's voice, angry and commanding, then another voice. Smooth, cold, familiar. Nina's blood went cold. She recognized that voice. She pushed through Lee Ho's sweet door. Lee Ho stood in the center of the room, gun drawn. Across from him stood a man in an expensive suit, handsome, polished, dangerous. And standing beside him was someone Nina never thought she'd see again. Her ex-fiancé. "Nina," Marcus smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Surprise. Nina's world tilted. "What are you doing here?" "Came to bring you home, baby." Marcus's tone was light, mocking. "Your family misses you." "How did you?" "You think you can just disappear," Marcus laughed. "You humiliated me, Nina, cost me my reputation. Did you really think I'd just let that go? Lee Ho stepped forward, putting himself between Nina and Marcus. Leave, now. The man in the suit smiled. Lee Ho, always so dramatic. I'm just here for a business transaction. Lee Ho's gun didn't waver. There's no transaction. Oh, I think there is. The man gestured to Marcus. See, your little girlfriend here owes my associate quite a bit. Humiliation, lost business opportunities, emotional damage. We're willing to forget all that for a price. Nina's stomach dropped. You're working with them. Marcus shrugged. You cost me everything, Nina. Figured I'd return the favor. Lee Ho's finger tightened on the trigger. You have 5 seconds to leave before I put a bullet in both of you. You won't. The suited man's smile widened. Because if you kill us, our associates will release very interesting information about your operation. Names, locations, everything. It was a trap, a carefully constructed trap. Nina's mind raced. This was her fault. Her past had followed her here, and now it was going to destroy Lee Ho. I'll go, Nina said. No, Lee Ho's voice was steel. Lee Ho, if I don't. No, he looked at her, and the intensity in his eyes took her breath away. I didn't survive 12 years of hell just to lose you to cowards. The suited man sighed. How noble, how stupid. Get out, Lee Ho said, before I decide your information is worth less than your lives. The suited man's smile faltered. He could see it in Lee Ho's eyes, the absolute willingness to pull that trigger. You're making a mistake, the man said. I've made plenty of mistakes, Lee Ho replied. This isn't one of them. Marcus grabbed Nina's arm. You're coming with me. Lee Ho moved faster than Nina had ever seen. One moment Marcus was holding her. The next, he was on the ground, Lee Ho's gun pressed against his temple. Touch her again, Lee Ho said quietly, and I'll make your death last days. Marcus went pale. The suited man raised his hands. Fine, we'll go, but this isn't over. It is, Lee Ho said. Spread the word. Anyone who comes for her answers to me. Anyone who touches her dies. No negotiations, no mercy. The suited man's expression darkened, but he nodded. He grabbed Marcus and dragged him toward the door. When they were gone, Nina collapsed against the wall. I'm so sorry, I didn't know he'd. Don't apologize. Lee Ho holstered his gun and pulled her into his arms. This isn't your fault. But your operation. I'll handle it, he cupped her face. You're more important than any operation. Nina's eyes filled with tears. You could lose everything because of me. I already lost everything 12 years ago. Lee Ho's voice cracked. You gave it back to me. I'm not losing you, not for anything. Nina kissed him, hard and desperate and full of everything she couldn't put into words. When they broke apart, Lee Ho pressed his forehead against hers. No more running, he said. Not for either of us. No more running, Nina agreed. They stood together in the ruins of Lee Ho's suite, two broken people who'd found something worth fighting for. Love wasn't weakness. Love was the strength to stand when everything else fell apart. And Nina and Lee Ho were about to prove that to everyone who doubted them. Lee Ho's enemies thought love would destroy him. They thought caring about Nina made him vulnerable. If you believe love is the strongest force in the world, subscribe to Afro-Korean World and hit that like button right now. Comment, love conquers all if you believe two people who refuse to give up can overcome anything. Because this story is far from over, and what comes next will test everything they've built together.